The path stretched across empty ground, broken only by jagged rocks and crooked trees. Every step the Outlander took echoed like a drumbeat in the still night. He carried nothing but a worn coat, a blade at his side, and the heavy silence of a man who had traveled too far for too long. The world he walked through was not his own. The hills were strange, the rivers ran with colors he had never seen, even the air smelled unfamiliar, thick, heavy, like smoke that never cleared. But it was not the land that made him uneasy. It was the eyes he could not see, the whispers he could not find. He knew he was not alone. This place had rules he did not understand, rules whispered by fires and carried by the wind. Every broken branch, every crunch of leaves beneath his boots told him someone, or something, was watching. Still, he pressed forward. His journey was not of choice, but of survival. He had been cast out, a stranger among strangers. In this world, trust was a rare coin, and betrayal was always closer than friendship. Yet, even with the weight of exile on his back, he searched. For shelter, for safety, for a reason to keep walking. As the night deepened, the forest began to shift. The wind carried a sound, faint but clear, the crackle of fire. His hand moved to the hilt of his blade, his body tense. Fire meant people, and people meant questions he might not be ready to answer. But fire also meant warmth, food, and maybe hope. The Outlander paused at the edge of a clearing, hidden in the shadows of the trees. Before him, smoke curled into the night sky, rising from a small campfire. The flames danced, but no one sat beside them. No figures moved. No voices spoke. It was as if the fire had been waiting for him, glowing like a signal in the darkness. His chest tightened. He had walked too far to believe in coincidences. The Outlander knew this was no accident. Someone had lit that fire. Someone wanted him to find it, and in that moment, standing at the edge of the light, he felt its unease, sharp, a weight in the air. A warning. This was not a welcome. It was a test. The Outlander stayed in the shadows, his eyes fixed on the fire. Flames licked the air, bright and restless, yet there was no wood crackling, no sound of burning. It was too quiet and natural. The fire seemed alive, as though it breathed on its own. He stepped closer, boots sinking into damp earth, every movement slow and careful. The silence pressed against him like a hand to his throat. Then, a sound. A branch snapping. The Outlander froze. His fingers tightened on the hilt of his blade. The sound had come from behind him, but when he turned, there was nothing, only trees swaying in the restless wind. Shadows bent in strange shapes, moving as though they were not bound to the firelight. His pulse quickened, but his face stayed hard, unreadable. He had learned long ago that fear was a weakness others could smell. The fire burned steady, waiting for him. Its glow touched the clearing, but refused to spread to the forest around it. The trees seemed untouched, swallowed in darkness. It was as if the fire wanted him alone and no one else. He moved closer until the light brushed his coat, revealing the scars across his hands, the dust on his boots, the long trail of a man who never rested. That's when he saw its footprints. Fresh, pressed deep into the soil beside the fire. Someone had been here moments ago, maybe still watching. His jaw tightened. He did not like games. He stepped into the clearing, closer to the fire, his blade half drawn. The air grew warmer, but not in a comforting way. It was heavy, pressing, like standing too close to lightning. "Show yourself," he muttered. His voice low, steady, carrying through the night. Silence answered him. But then, movement. A shadow slipped between the trees. The Outlander's heart beat harder, though his stance never wavered. The shape was too quick to see, gone before his eyes could follow. The fire hissed as though it knew something he did not. The Outlander circled the fire. Eyes sharp, scanning the trees, the earth, the branches above. His instincts screamed he was not just being watched. He was being studied, judged, and then, out of the darkness, a voice, soft, calm. To calm, you've come far. Stranger. The Outlander turned, his blade catching the firelight. But the voice had no body, no face. Only words hanging in the night. The fire crackled louder. The air grew heavier. And for the first time, the Outlander felt something he rarely allowed himself to feel. This was no ordinary meeting. This was a trap. Asterisk from the edge of the clearing. The voice returned, calm, smooth. It carried no anger, no welcome-only control. You stand where few dare to walk. The Outlander turned, blade steady, eyes locked on the shadows. His breath slowed, his body tense, ready to strike. But the figure that stepped forward was not what he expected. It was a man, or at least, it looked like one, wrapped in a cloak that seemed too heavy for the thin frame beneath it. The hood covered most of the face, leaving only the mouth and a glimpse of pale skin in the firelight. His steps were measured, deliberate, as though he knew this place belonged to him. The Outlander did not lower his blade. "You lit the fire," he said flatly. The figure tilted his head, a faint smile curling at the corner of his mouth. "And you came, just as I knew you would." Something about the words struck deep, as if this moment had been waiting long before the Outlander's journey began. He studied the figure closely. No weapons visible, no armor. Just the cloak, the calm voice, and eyes hidden in shadow. Yet something about him radiated danger, not in the way of a soldier, but in the way of a secret too heavy to hold. The Outlander kept his distance. "What do you want?" The man's smile faded. He glanced at the fire, then back at the traveler. "Not what I want. What you carry." Confusion rippled across the Outlander's face for the briefest second, but he masked it quickly. He carried nothing of value, no gold, no map, no crown. Only scars and silence. Still, the man's words carried weight, and weight meant knowledge. "You followed me," the Outlander said slowly. "Watched me?" The man's silence was answer enough. He raised his hand, pale fingers curling into a fist. The fire responded. Its flames grew taller, brighter, as if it bowed to his command. Shadows stretched across the clearing, swallowing the Outlander's figure in a dark embrace. For the first time, the Outlander felt the ground beneath his boots shift, not physically, but in his instincts. This was no ordinary wanderer. This was no chance meeting. The man stepped closer, voice low. "You don't know what you are, do you?" The words hung in the air like a knife. The Outlander's grip tightened on his blade. His voice was sharp, a growl against the night. "Say what you mean." But the man only smiled again, that same slow, unsettling smile. In time, the fire hissed. The forest seemed to lean closer. And the Outlander knew this stranger carried answers, but also danger. One wrong step, and this meeting would end in blood. Asterisk, the night thickened, heavy as stone. The fire twisted higher, spitting sparks that floated like burning eyes into the black air. The Outlander stood still, blade raised, though a strange unease began to gnaw at him. This man, this cloaked figure, was not only speaking in riddles. He was steering the night itself. "You've walked through lands not your own," the man said. His voice calm, but sharp, like a knife hidden in silk. "And still you believe you are a wanderer. But the ground has been waiting for you." Every step, every breath, planned. The Outlander felt his jaw tighten. He had survived betrayal before. He had seen friends turn to enemies, kindness shift to cruelty. And yet, something about these words struck deeper than the blade at his hip ever could. Planned, that meant control. That meant chains he had not seen. He circled slowly, keeping distance, eyes scanning every movement of the stranger. But the man's shadow stayed long and steady, never flickering even as the fire swayed. It was wrong. The forest itself seemed to bend around him, as if he had authority no mortal should hold. "What are you hiding?" The Outlander demanded, his voice low, dangerous. The man's pale fingers brushed against the edge of his cloak. For a moment, the fabric shifted, revealing something beneath. Not a weapon, not a shield, but a small box wooden, marked with symbols that seemed to writhe in the firelight. He clutched it as though it were alive. "You should not ask what I hide," he murmured. "You should ask why it calls for you." The Outlander's eyes narrowed. The box pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat. Every instinct screamed that it was dangerous. And yet, deep in his chest, another feeling stirred familiarity, as if he had seen it before, long ago, in dreams that ended in fire and screams. The stranger stepped closer, holding the box just beyond the firelight. His words grew sharper, each one landing like stone on steel. "You cannot run from what is written. You are bound to it. And whether you open it or refuse it will decide more than your fate alone." The Outlander's hand tightened on his blade. He wanted to strike, to end this riddle before it took root in his mind. But the fire snapped, loud, almost like a warning. The shadows thickened, pressing against him, holding him back as though the night itself did not want him to act. His breath slowed. His eyes locked on the box. The longer he stared, the stronger the pull became. It was not just an object. It was a key to what he did not yet know. But in the pit of his soul, he felt the truth pressing against him like an unseen hand. The cloaked man smiled again, soft, patient, as if he could already see the outcome. "Soon, Outlander. The choice will not be mine, but yours." The fire roared suddenly, wild and furious, casting their shadows tall against the trees. And for the first time, the Outlander realized this was no stranger's secret. This was his. The fire screamed. It did not crackle or hiss, it screamed, as if it held a voice of its own. The flames bent inward, wrapping around the cloaked man, drawing every shadow toward him like a tide of darkness. The Outlander staggered back, blade raised, but his eyes stayed fixed on the wooden box. It pulsed again stronger now, beating in rhythm with his heart. The man's voice cut through the roar of the flames. "You feel it, don't you? The bond, the pull. It has always been yours, though you were blind to it." The Outlander's grip faltered for a fraction of a second. He had never seen this box before, never touched it, and yet the symbols burned into his mind as if carved there long ago. Memories, stirred fragments of faces, screams in the dark, fire swallowing a village he could not name. He had buried those memories deep, but now they rose like ghosts. "You've been hunted," the man continued, lifting the box higher. "Not because you are lost, but because you are chosen. This land, these people. They fear what you are meant to awaken." The firelight surged, casting the Outlander's face in jagged lines of fear and rage. He shouted over the roar, "Lies. I carry nothing. I am nothing but a wanderer." The man's laughter echoed hollow through the clearing, sharp as broken glass. "A wanderer? No, you are the key." And this, he shook the box. The ground trembled beneath them. "Is the lock." The Outlander felt his knees weaken, though his spirit fought to stand tall. The truth pressed against him like a storm. He had believed exile was punishment, a curse laid upon a man who belonged nowhere. But now the word exile twisted into something else. Not banishment. Protection. He had been cast out not because he was worthless, but because he was dangerous. The strangers who'd slipped back just enough to reveal hollow eyes, dark, endless, reflecting fire without light. They never told you, did they? They never told you why the world watches, why the shadows follow. They never told you what sleeps inside your blood. The box pulsed harder, each throb rattling the air, pulling at the Outlander's chest as if his very soul wanted to climb into it. His blade trembled in his hand. For the first time, not from weakness, but from truth, the man stepped closer, his voice now a whisper that carried louder than thunder. You cannot run from this. You are the storm they fear. You are the fire they could not kill. The Outlander's breath caught. His eyes burned, not with tears, but with rage. Rage at the lies, the silence, the years of wandering without answers. The fire swelled, the box glowed, and in that moment he knew his past had never left him. It had only been waiting, and now it had found him. The fire rose into a tower of light, clawing at the sky. The forest shook, every branch trembling as if the earth itself feared what was about to break free. The Outlander braced his stance, blade shining in the burning glow. The box pulsed louder now, like a drum of war, and he felt it pulling at his chest, trying to drag something out of him that he did not understand. The cloaked man stepped forward, his voice heavy with command. Open it, or I will open you. The Outlander's blood surged with fury. He had been pushed, tested, and broken too many times. His exile, his wandering, his scars, every trial had been meant to keep him blind. But now, as the fire roared and the ground trembled, he understood one thing. This stranger wanted more than answers. He wanted control. And the Outlander would never kneel. With a roar, the Outlander swung his blade, slicing through the air toward the cloaked figure. Steel met shadow, his strike should have cut deep, but the man's form twisted like smoke, slipping aside without pain. The fire dimmed for a moment as though it feared the clash. The man's hollow eyes flared. He raised the box high, and suddenly the Outlander's body locked. His limbs grew heavy, his breath strangled in his chest. The box throbbed, stealing his strength, chaining him without rope or iron. He dropped to one knee, blade digging into the earth to keep him from falling. You cannot fight what you are, the man hissed. It is inside you. You are mine to command. But even as the darkness pressed down, the Outlander's spirit burned hotter than the fire around him. His heart pounded against the invisible chains, and with each beat, he felt something stir a raw force he had never dared to touch. It rose from deep within, a storm clawing its way out of his bones. His scars burned like firebrands, glowing faintly in the night. The cloaked man staggered back, his smile faltering for the first time. No, not yet. You're not ready. The Outlander gritted his teeth, forcing his body to rise against the crushing weight. His voice tore through the storm. I am more than ready. The box cracked. Just a hairline fracture, but enough to release a scream that did not belong to any living creature. The air shattered, the trees bent low, and the fire bent away from the Outlander as though bowing to something greater. The man's hollow eyes widened. His grip shook. No, this power. It cannot be yours. But it was. The Outlander's body shook with rage and light, his scars blazing brighter, his blade humming with strange energy. For the first time in his life, he felt it not exile, not weakness, not chains. Power. The night itself seemed to split open. The hunter had become the hunted, and the Outlander was no longer running. The clearing was unrecognizable. The fire that once burned steady had collapsed into a circle of embers, glowing weakly as smoke curled toward the night sky. The air was still, but not peaceful. It was heavy charged, as though the forest itself held its breath. The Outlander stood tall at the center of it all, his blade lowered, its edge glowing faintly with the same strange light that had torn through him moments before. His scars still pulsed, dim but alive, whispering of a force he had never asked for but could no longer deny. His chest heaved with exhaustion, but his eyes burned with clarity. For the first time, he was not lost. He was found, though, what he had found frightened. Him more than the years of wandering ever had. The cloaked man knelt in the dirt, clutching the fractured box. His voice was no longer calm, no longer steady. It shook with rage and fear. This was not meant for you. You are not the chosen. You are the mistake. The words struck like a dagger, but the Outlander did not falter. He stepped closer, his shadow falling across the man. His voice was steady, each word carrying the weight of his awakening. A mistake does not burn the world around it. A mistake does not break your chains. The man raised his head, hollow eyes gleaming with something darker than feared desperation. You cannot hold it. It will consume you. And when it does, the world will not forgive. The Outlander stared at the cracked box, listening to its faint heartbeat. He knew the stranger was right about one thing: the power was dangerous. It was not meant to be touched, not meant to be carried. But it was his now. Whether curse or gift, it had chosen him. Or perhaps he had chosen it. He turned away from the broken man, his footsteps echoing into the silent woods. The night followed him, whispering, watching, waiting. Each step carried him deeper into a path that no map could chart. At the edge of the clearing, he paused. The air stirred, carrying the faint sound of something far away, a chorus of voices chanting in the dark. He was not free. He was not safe. This was only the beginning. The Outlander looked back once, his eyes hard, his scars glowing faintly beneath his coat. "If the world fears me," he whispered, "then let it tremble." The forest swallowed him whole, the embers fading behind him until only darkness remained. And in that silence, the box gave one final pulse. The story was not over. It had only just begun.